Hi, I'm Kenzie Lawrence, and this is my presentation for Accounting 6650. I chose to talk about the case involving Cynthia Cooper and WorldCom. It's the article titled Uncooking the Books at WorldCom. So just a little bit of an overview of what exactly happened. So WorldCom was faced with large fees to lease portions of other companies' telephone networks. These costs were continually rising and getting steeper and steeper. These numbers were carefully monitored by the Wall Street, and late in 2000, it was about the third quarter, the company was faced with $685 million in unpaid bills. This happened after a few of their smaller customers went under. The accounting department was frantically scrambling and trying to find ways to pay for these debts and to get their numbers up so that the expenses on the company's financial statements would be able to meet the Wall Street's expectations for that quarter. They were only able to scrape together $50 million. This number was obviously not even near what they needed to gather. Mr. Yates approached Miss Vincent and Mr. Normand and asked them if they would be able to dip into a reserve account that was meant to cover line costs, and they would need to take out $828 million to pay for these other expenses. This transfer would violate accounting rules, but after much justification and convincing, they did it. Immediately after doing it, they felt guilty and did not feel okay with it, and so they wanted to resign, and so they decided to approach Mr. Sullivan and hand in their resignation. However, Mr. Sullivan assured them nothing they did was illegal and that this would never happen again. However, another similar situation occurred the very next quarter, and these situations continually kept occurring where they would have to backdate entries and lie and account for things incorrectly. So, Cynthia Cooper, the internal auditor, heard about all of this, and so she began to investigate for late hours and on her own time. She ended up finding about $3.8 billion in fraudulent accounting entries. So, how did she follow the IMA guidelines for resolution of ethical conduct? So Cynthia Cooper knew her organization didn't have a strong established policy on the resolution of such a conflict, because obviously a lot of the people higher up in the company were involved in this situation and were the ones beginning and causing it to be done. So she discussed the issues with Mr. Myers and then with one of her coworkers, another auditor, Glenn Smith. They continued to investigate, and once they had their information, they confronted Vincent and others to make sure that what they had found was true and try and find out why the numbers were what they were. But nobody could explain the reasoning behind the lies. Once she had all of the facts and information, the SEC had began to investigate, and she gave them all of the information she had and clarified relevant ethical issues and really helped them in their investigation. So how did she follow Barraco's advice? She was patient and didn't jump into any conclusions or rush into anything. She picked her battles wisely. She made sure that she had all of the information and genuinely listened to everyone. She then evaluated the situation and came to the conclusion that it was definitely a situation that she needed to act on. She slightly bent the rules, but she never broke them. She didn't jump into anything, and she always retained empathy for everyone involved with the situation. However, when the SEC got involved, she made sure that she was complying with all the rules and regulations, but continually having empathy for her coworkers. And she wasn't throwing anyone under the bus and giving names. She was just giving them the hard data and numbers that she had collected. The last thing, find a compromise. She was able to compromise and find ways to comply with the law while not getting too involved or getting herself in trouble. At the end of the day, she was a great silent leader. She was doing what was right because she wanted to, not because she wanted the recognition.